The Walt Disney Company earnings call is set for 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here in the U.S., and we will be covering it live here on Valiant Renegade. Stay tuned. We're going to talk about some of the expectations for this call that are out in the ether right now. Renegade Online. Well, welcome back, folks. Another great day here at Valiant Renegade. It's great to see everybody out there once again. And if you are like one of the many folks watching this video not yet subscribed to this channel, please take a moment and hit that little red subscribe button, turn it to gray, hit that notification bell, share this sucker out on the social medias, and of course, please do leave a comment before you head out the door today, and make sure you click the link below this video, which will take you to the pre-show of the live stream set to go off this afternoon just before the Disney earnings call. And make sure once you get there, you hit the notification bell for that live show so you can get a heads up when we launch. The biggest thing that analysts and investors are looking for today is guidance from newly reappointed Disney CEO Robert Iger about his reorganization of the Walt Disney Company following Bob CHapek's release back in November of 2022. And if you all recall, the next person to fall on the sword just a mere 12 to 16 hours after Bob CHapek was his top lieutenant, Kareem Daniel. Kareem Daniel was the newly appointed head of the DMED division, which was a Bob CHapek design. This division was made to basically consolidate power into one central location for all decisions regarding distribution of their entertainment and the power of the purse. Now, when Bob Iger first took over the Walt Disney Company back in the early 2000s, following Michael Eisner's ouster, Bob Iger started putting the power of the purse and the power of the decision-making and the creative power into the hands of the department heads themselves. Now, some could argue that this became more costly over the long run, but at the time, Disney had the financial performance, the income, the revenue, the sales that really made it look good, and it did work for a while. Of course, in recent years, it looked more like this was becoming a burden to the Walt Disney Company, which my personal opinion is why Bob CHapek decided to make some changes and make things a little more efficient in his mind. Now, of course, CHapek only had about 10 months and 2 weeks to really get this going before he was terminated. And Bob Iger brought back in, who is now going to undo much of what CHapek has done to this point. The other big thing that folks will be watching for is how was Disney Plus's growth and or revenue or lack thereof. Disney Plus has been a sore spot in Disney earnings calls in the last several quarters, if not the last couple of years, where even though they've had very healthy subscriber growth over a short period of time, the losses quarter over quarter have been mounting. And don't forget, Bob CHapek was guiding towards peak losses at the end of fiscal year 2022. That was the quarter that ended September 30th of last year. And those Disney Plus losses, or streaming losses overall, reached a total of about $1.5 billion. And we've seen reports in recent weeks that suggest that analysts are thinking somewhere to the tune of another $1 billion or so will show up for this quarterly report. It's still a big loss, but it certainly should be coming down from the peak, which we assume at this point, based on previous statements from Disney, was in the previous quarter. And then, of course, the question surrounding ESPN's future. This is something that began last year when activist investor Dan Loeb of Third Point was brought into the Disney company, where he and Disney came to an agreement to have a board member put onto Disney's top seats that Dan Loeb and Disney could both agree on. Now, that does not mean that Disney would spin off ESPN, but it is going to be a question today. If it's not addressed during the call itself, it will likely be asked during the Q&A session following the scripted portion. Now, to remind folks, one of the reasons that Dan Loeb and Third Point would like to see this happen is because what they suggest is that it would give ESPN more flexibility to go into other business areas, namely sports betting. Another topic that may come up during the question and answer session is the Reedy Creek Improvement District in the Walt Disney World area in Orlando. This is set to come under some scrutiny this morning as the Florida House Subcommittee on Special Taxing Districts is due to meet at 9 a.m. Eastern to begin discussion of the legislation that is making its way through the House right now about the RCID and its future. Even with all these things, one of the biggest issues that will be looked at today to see how or if it is even addressed is what Disney is going to do about the new activist investor, Nelson Peltz. Now, Nelson Peltz of Trian Management has been making a lot of noise lately, going into a proxy war for he himself to win a board seat on the Walt Disney board, trying to get rid of current board member Michael Froman. Now, whether or not Peltz will be successful is something that we really won't know until early April, as Disney has just recently slated their official annual shareholder meeting at that time. We'll know a lot more then, but I promise you the Q&A session during the earnings call today is more likely than not to bring this issue up to find out what's going on. Make sure you stay tuned and catch the live show this afternoon at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, with the earnings call beginning at 4:30 Eastern Standard Time. We'll be right here on Valiant Renegade to do live reactions and give you our thoughts and break it all down for you. Until then, take care.